Okay, so we're talking about course materials, and I know Laura and I were going back and forth. We're talking about modules. We're talking about, what basically we're talking about what is it that you teach and how do you teach it and what does that mean? I have a really hard time personally separating instruction from assessment because I think you're constantly doing assessment about how well your instruction is going and how well students are understanding it. But I think we're going to definitely try to focus on today how we instruct, what we instruct with, what we focus on, and then we'll talk about assessment in a separate conversation. But I do think the two are really, really tightly intertwined and really good teaching. We talked last time also about the syllabus, and I'm just bringing this up quickly. We don't need to spend any more time on the syllabus, but we talked about a traditional syllabus, and then we talked about a learner-centered design syllabus. And I'm bringing this up because sometimes people spend all this time on the syllabus, and then their handouts still end up looking like this. And that, that's okay, but think about what would it be like if your handouts also applied a lot of the design elements we talked about last time. And how could that be useful in communicating information to students? And how could it be useful for them to have some space to take some notes or for them to understand exactly what your expectations are for a particular activity? So I'm throwing that out there as a first, reminder of where we've been and what we've talked about, but also as something to think about in terms of how you're designing these instructional materials and what our principles and priorities are for those. So with instruction, my first question is, and I'm sure you guys can all kind of yell it out if you want, but is it a fact or a myth? Most learners like to be self-directed and actively involved in learning. And I often get some debate on this. So what do you guys think? Fact or myth?
Fact.
Fact. Especially adult learners. You guys are smart and right, and maybe it's already on the PowerPoint I gave you, but especially adult learners want to be self-directed and actively involved. I do sometimes hear from college professors, really? I don't know, students come in my class and sit back and wait, feed me, teach me, you teach to me. I don't have to do all this work. It can often take a little bit more work, but the bottom line is all research tells us we like to be actively involved in what we learn. And I'd like to keep that in our mind as we talk about each one of these principles. One of my favorite quotes, and I'm sure some of you have seen this before, but if you build it, they will sleep. If they build it, they will learn. And I think that's really what I try to get at. And there's very far advanced concepts in having students be active learners, but there's also just some very simple basic steps you can take to help people get there. Active learning, what's really nice about active learning, and I can spend a lot of time going over each one of these, but I probably won't given our time crunch, but if students get really involved in what they're learning, they're actually finally doing the higher order thinking that we really always say we want out of college students. We don't want them to just regurgitate information back to us. We want them to be doing things like analysis, synthesis, evaluation. And when you're doing active learning, you're actually giving immediate feedback to students, and it's really helping the students develop skills if you're doing it effectively. We don't have a lot of time about this, but can anybody in the room or a couple people in the room tell me, how do you bring multimodal activities into your instruction? How do you keep them active in your classes? Anybody want to jump in here?
I would say one, just asking him questions, just like you were just doing.
I try to model it, yes. Asking questions, yeah. What else?
Jean said they use clickers.
Clicker technology is great. It can be another level of thinking, to develop the clicker questions. Those are really, really useful because you get immediate feedback about what students are understanding or not understanding.
Mine's is hands-on already.
Hands-on already?
Hands-on already. So we're on the computer as soon as they walk in the class till we leave.
So, do they ever stand up and move around?
No, we don't move around in the classroom, but questions are asked. They also are allowed to make changes. I teach one way. If I explain it, then I let them do their own thing. For instance, in spreadsheets, we might create a graph. We might change the different colors so they can select what they want. I might ask us to put in a particular picture. I'll let them put in a picture that relates to it, not the one the book asks for. So I tweak all of that. So they get to do basically what they feel would be more appropriate for them, than what the book asks us to do.
Right.
So I'm engaging them, allowing them to make their own selections. So I'm not, I state what the book asks us to do, but we always do something different.
that's really useful because that's another way we know students learn is if they can relate to things that they're doing, not just having it being really abstract.
And I also hear in hers, she gives them choice. I think
Yes,
that's.
there's a lot of choices. They make their own.
Yeah.
Choice is important. Yeah, absolutely.
Mary, like,
Oh, I was just gonna say, someone was trying to do a little something at the beginning or the end of class, like, we had a little pop quiz and they could work together. They had to jot down the art terms they'd learned, write a definition in their own words, and then a title of a work of art that they can apply it to. But I allowed them to work together and use their notes, but they couldn't use the textbook.
So group activities, did you hear what you said?
Did. Yeah, that's great. Group activities like that really do get them to connect and understand why their notes are important and why their listening is important and all that. That's great. Those are great tips. And one of the reasons why I always ask this question to an audience is sometimes I learn things about what people are doing and also kind of affirming you guys are really doing good work. Anyone else there?
Jean had one that I just missed.
I was just saying, some of the faculty use games to do either review or to do the embedded, not, low stake or no stake assessment while learning.
Yes. What kind of games?
Some do Jeopardy, some go ahead and do Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, because they have templates for PowerPoint for that. There's also clickers for that.
Yep, those templates are great. And I've even seen people just do really simple vocabulary games. Just getting people to learn concepts and content that way. So yeah, a game. You'd be surprised how like one piece of candy students will actually like get excited about.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention, we do subscribe to Soft Chalk here, and so we have, we're trying really hard to get faculty to get comfortable with it, because that allows you to create a whole lesson that has embedded quizzing and games and drag and drop and all that kind of good stuff.
That would be a great one for people to kind of maybe play with at the next workshop. Soft Chalk would be nice. I think that's a great example.
You have something?
We good?
Yes.
Okay. So